ناظرین السلام علیکم، آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں پروگرام پرسپیکٹیو نقطۂ نظر اویس اقبال کے ساتھ جیو ٹی وی پہ۔ ناظرین، قومیں اپنی زبان سے، اپنے کلچر سے، اپنے لباس سے اور اپنے کھانوں سے پہچانی جاتی ہیں، اور وہیں ناظرین اپنے کھیلوں سے بھی پہچانی جاتی ہیں جو بڑی اہمیت کا حامل رکھتے ہیں۔ ناظرین، ہم ساؤتھ ایسٹ ایشیا سے آنے والے لوگ، پاکستان، انڈیا، بنگلہ دیش اور دیگر اور ممالک سے کینیڈا میں آنے والے لوگ اپنے ساتھ جو چیزیں لے کر کے آئے اپنی پہچان بناتے چلے گئے، لیکن ناظرین جب کھیلوں کی باری آتی ہے تو آج ہم دیکھتے ہیں کہ کرکٹ جو اسپورٹس ہے وہ کینیڈا کے اندر مین اسٹریم اسپورٹ میں پچھلے چند سالوں میں شامل ہو گیا۔ پچھلے دنوں ہمارے شہر برامپٹن میں گلوبل T20 ICC کا ٹورنامنٹ ہوا، اور ناظرین بہت سارے لوگوں نے یہ سوال کرنا شروع کر دیا کہ ایسا کیا ہوا ہے کہ کینیڈا میں کرکٹ جو ہے وہ مین اسٹریم اسپورٹس کا حصہ بن گیا۔ ناظرین، اسی پہ بات کرنے کے لیے ہم نے آج دعوت دی ہے جناب میئر آف برامپٹن پیٹرک براؤن کو، who is the biggest champion of advocating for integration through sports. He has made Brampton the cricket capital of Canada. Let's find out from Mayor Patrick Brown کس طرح سے کرکٹ کی آؤٹ لک چینج ہوئی ہے in the last few years. Mayor Patrick Brown, welcome to the show.
Ovais, always nice to talk to you and great to be on Perspectives with Ovais Iqbal.
Thank you so much. And as I said in my intro, I was talking in Urdu. People are talking about this. How come all of a sudden cricket has become a mainstream sports in Canada? It wasn't used to be like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I think this is only the beginning. I think cricket is exploding in popularity. Really, what was missing is we had the communities that love cricket, from the British to the Australians to the South Asian communities to the Caribbean. There was a culture of cricket love. What we didn't have for far too long was the political leadership to build the amenities and the infrastructure. Cricket was overlooked. Frankly, Canada was living like it was in the 1960s. And we didn't see the investments in the sports that really our diverse communities loved. And 5 years ago when I became mayor of Brampton, one of my commitments was to change how we built recreation. We now have 18 fields. We're adding 3 more. We now passed a resolution to build our first winterized facility. We're looking at having a junior cricket league to get young people trained. And of course, we've been hosting the GT20. And so I'm a big believer that you want to have a healthy community. And whatever sport the community loves, you want to make sure the amenities exist for them to enjoy. I've got much bigger plans for what we could do with cricket in Canada and in Brampton, but I think the progress we've made in the last 5 years has been pretty significant.
Amazing. And the GT20 is the biggest example which happened in your city of Brampton. So how satisfied you are with this entire engagement of GT20?
Well, the interesting thing is when I first pitched the GT20, they were originally looking at Mississauga. And Mississauga said, oh, no one likes cricket, and they took a pass on it. And I went to the organizers and said, listen, your parking concerns where you want to have a temporary field, we'll take care of all of that. And let's have a long-term partnership with Brampton. And they agreed, and it's been fantastic. I'm sure Mississauga is regretting the decision they took to look past the GT20, because this last edition was a smashing success. Not just the quality of the cricket, having the championship match come down to the last bowl, and Andre Russell electrified the stadium where there wasn't a free seat. Literally every seat, every standing room, every nook and corner of the stadium was full. But if you look at the television audience of the tournament, it fetched 157 million viewers. That shows the reach of cricket. And for all those out there who diminish cricket, who underestimate cricket, this is what's possible. When Andre Russell hit that 6, and I saw the crowd jump to their feet, that's what this is about. It's an inspiring sport, and it doesn't matter if you're from Jamaica, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, whether you're from London, England, or Sydney, Australia. It doesn't matter where you come from. Sports unites communities, and for me, it was really nice to see people of all backgrounds celebrating together. That's what sport's about.
Yes, absolutely. Sports unites communities, and when we say food unites people, sports unites communities. So excellent. So I personally was at GT20 almost for every single game. I saw the games, and actually I saw you almost every single day, and your love for cricket, your love for people can be seen. So, a lot of people, enjoyed the cricket, but there were some questions that they asked was, it would be nice to see if the cricket matches are also happening during the night time. So, is there anything in plan for the next season of GT20?
I'm glad you asked that question. So obviously there's an audience in India and Pakistan that there's television rights where we want to broadcast during some of their prime times. And so, but what we're looking at doing next year is having one game each day that is really meant for the market in India and Pakistan, and that will likely be a morning game. But we're also going to bring in next year a daily evening game, and the evening game is really going to be for people here to enjoy. We're going to be adding lights to the temporary facility so we can have a 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock game. And so even if you've worked a long day and you go home and have dinner with the family, you can then take the family to watch one of these matches. We want to make sure our residents have the ability to appreciate some of the incredible talent that's coming. You know, I want young kids in Brampton to be able to have their parents take them and see the Shahid Al-Fridis, to see the Chris Gales. You know, these are legends of the game who, frankly, this is a unique opportunity to see, or Harbhajan Singh, or just the fact that some of the people we had just walking around the stadium, the Wasim Akrams or the Shoaib Akhtar, they were out there meeting fans. It's special.
Yeah, so one thing I must appreciate and admire, Patrick Brown, when these legendary players, like you mentioned, Wasim Akram, Shoaib Akhtar, and all of them, you gave the opportunity to people, those who were unable to come to the stadium, but you invited people to Brampton Square so they can come and meet these players and, have their signature on the badge. So whose idea was this?
So it was an idea that I had, and I can tell you the GT20 fully supported it. What my goal was to make sure that sometimes you have these legends, but there's no interaction because they're on the field. I really wanted to create opportunities for these cricket legends to meet the public. And so there was a few ways we did that. All the teams were encouraged to have banquets. And so they had large banquets. I look at the Brampton Wolves. They did a banquet for the United Achievers and had all their stars there. The Toronto Nationals did one, and Olivia Chow, my colleague in Toronto, came out to it. And they had 1,000 people at their banquet. But the Garden Square one was special because we had literally these legends who took hours. Anyone who wanted an autograph, anyone who wanted a photo, anyone that wanted to share a story had the opportunity to do so. Then we also arranged some special visits. We had Shoaib Akhtar visit the Brampton Cricket League, sharing tips. And I want to do more stuff like that next year. I want to have more engagement, not just at Garden Square or at these banquets. I want to arrange for some tutorials for the young people in our city. I'd love to see some of these legends of the game, run a cricket session for kids under the age of 18 or kids under the age of 10. How do you grow cricket in Canada? There are those who are adults who love the sport, but just like we've got junior hockey and junior baseball and junior basketball and junior soccer, we need to have junior cricket. And so I'm going to be working very hard over the next year to create an infrastructure that supports junior cricket.
Yeah, this whole idea of having cricket as part of the mainstream sports and your support of your office and your personal attention, has given a lot of encouragement. So I've got 2 kids, my twins, they were born here, and I used to play cricket back home, but I never showed interest in playing cricket here. But they are loving it, and they have hope. When this cricket goes even further, they have a potential of becoming, big players in the future, whether they play in Canada or elsewhere. So the credit goes to you, to your team, Patrick.
No, it's been a real pleasure to work on this project, and for me, I love seeing the community enjoy it. And so I had so many residents who came up to me and said, we love the GT20, or we love the opportunity to meet so-and-so player at Garden Square. And there's nothing more rewarding as a mayor than seeing people really enjoy what you're working on.
Absolutely. And one thing else I will tell you before we take a break here, a lot of goodness came through this GT20. When these players came out and they were here in the town, they went to many different restaurants, the restaurants got boosted. But most importantly, many charitable organizations had fundraising events. So I was participating in few of them. For example, IDRF raised about $600,000 to build homes in Pakistan by having, these legendary players attending the events and people who wanted to love.
That's part of the nature of these players, and obviously you're talking about the fundraiser that Shahid Al-Fridi did. But every time he goes anywhere, and he's told this to me, he says, "I'll play cricket, but wherever I go, I want to fundraise for charity." Chris Gale said to me when I met him in my office, same thing. He says, "Tell me a charity, a local charity that I can rally behind." And so I think the quality, the character of some of these players is also pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Dear viewers, we are going to take a quick break right here, and please stay with us. Once we come back from the break, we'll talk to Mayor Brown. He also visited Pakistan just before GT20. What was the purpose of his visit, and how he is also helping to promote the art of Pakistan, the artist of Pakistan in Canada. Please stay with us.
ہمارا رویہ اور طرز عمل دونوں جنم لیتے ہیں ہمارے احساسات اور جذبات سے، جو وجود پاتے ہیں ہماری سوچ اور نقطۂ نظر سے۔ مثبت سوچ رکھنا اور ہر معاملے میں نقطہ فہم ہونا بنتا ہے باعث انسانوں اور معاشروں کے درمیان اچھے باہمی تعلقات کا اور برداشت کا۔ تو آئیں شامل ہو جائیں مثبت سوچ کے اس سفر میں۔ دیکھیے پروگرام نقطۂ نظر اویس اقبال کے ساتھ صرف جیو ٹی وی پر۔
گھر خریدنا یا ہو بیچنا، کوئی تجربہ کار اور ایماندار ریئلٹر ہو دیکھنا، تو ریئل اسٹیٹ کی فیلڈ میں آپ کا دوست، آپ کا رفیق تابش توفیق۔ If you're searching for an honest and experienced realtor, please call Tabish Tawfiq of Remax Champions Realty Inc. 647-518-3000 or visit tabishhomes.com. آپ کا رفیق تابش توفیق، تابش توفیق 647-518-3000.
If you're finding it difficult to meet the daily recommended water intake, give your water a flavor boost by mixing things up and adding some fruit, or how I like to do, a few drops of your favorite flavorol.
Brought to you by Greenish Natural Health.
चाट शाट का मूड हो या शेक बर्गर फ्राई, वो फलूदा हो या रोल शवरमा राय, आओ फिर से बाबू पान मजे उड़ाओ सुबह शाम, होके खाओ यहाँ के पान जो मुंह में भरते हैं जान। चॉकलेट स्ट्रॉबेरी मैंगो हो या सादा मीठा पटियाला, ओ पत्ती हो या राजा सा पान यहाँ का निराला, ओ याद रखो बस एक नाम, बाबू पान 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 बाबू पान।
Babu Pan and Shawarma, now serving from 4 locations.
नाज़रीन, वेलकम बैक। बहुत शुक्रिया, ब्रेक के बाद भी आप हमारे साथ रहे। टुडे वी आर स्पीकिंग टू द मेयर ऑफ Brampton, Patrick Brown, who's speaking about his love for cricket and how the city of Brampton has supported this sport to make this a sport, a mainstream sport in Canada. Patrick, in the previous segment we spoke about cricket, but I want to focus now that you also visited Pakistan very recently, a few months before the GT20 tournament. What was the purpose of your visit?
Well, this was my third trip to Pakistan, and as you know, for a long time I've had a very close relationship, a personal bond, friendship with the Pakistani Canadian community, and quite often Pakistan is overlooked. When people look at trade engagement, they look at the US, they look at Europe. Frankly, more recently, they look at India and China historically, but they don't look at Pakistan. And I've always taken a different approach. There is talent in Pakistan. It is naive for Canada not to be on the ground in Pakistan, building those and nurturing those relationships. I toured the tech sectors in Karachi, Islamabad, and Lahore, and it's explosive. The tech talent, the future Fortune 500 companies that exist is inspiring. And I was there with Beehive, which is our tech incubator, where we can now offer, we're one of 2 cities in Canada that can offer a startup visa that leads to Canadian citizenship. And so that's a pretty exciting pathway. The deal with it is, though, you have to locate your tech company in Brampton. And so we're building those collaborations with tech institutions in Pakistan. And of course, when I was there, I was also promoting the GT20. And we obviously have an audience in Pakistan for cricket. And I watched, I did a press conference with Shahid Afridi in Karachi, actually in Islamabad, and we also watched Pakistan beat New Zealand in a match there. So it was a mix of promoting tech collaboration, but also promoting this cricket tournament.
Excellent. So one of the other outcome I saw from your visit to Pakistan was that you brought an art exhibition on the Independence Day celebration at Brampton City Hall. What can you tell us about that engagement?
Well, Keel, the artist, is a brilliant artist, and you'll see his artwork in government institutions in Pakistan. You'll look at some of the beautiful hotels, like the Serena Hotel, has his artwork, and so it was fun to display his art at our conservatory in Brampton, and I think art, it radiates culture, and it's when you have art exchanges, it's an opportunity to highlight some of those the cultural richness that every background has.
And I just spoke, actually I met with Akil Ahmed a few days ago, and I couldn't attend the Independence Day event at City of Brampton, and I was blown away when I learned about him and when I saw his artwork, and when he told me how he came to Canada. Your name came to the discussion, and I was so pleased and happy that how you're helping to raise the profile of the Pakistani community living here in Canada, in Brampton. So once again, thank you for doing that for us. My next question, a little bit away from the sports and the arts, is cost of living. And Mississauga, Brampton, hard-working families living in these cities. What is the outlook? What can you tell the viewers here? Is there a hope, and if there is a hope, how far the hope is to curb the cost of living, the rising cost of living?
So there are challenges. We see inflationary pressures that are significant. Inflation has hit Canada hard. I would note that a lot of countries have higher inflation rates, so as bad as we find it has been in Canada, if you look at the inflation rates in most other westernized countries or GT20 countries, in some cases the inflation rate is double that of Canada. And on a local level, my goal is to reduce costs, reduce cost pressures on residents. It's why I'm very careful with taxpayer dollars in Brampton. I think we're the only city that has frozen taxes 4 of the last 5 years, and I do that because I know it's hard. One of the topics that gets the most attention is housing prices. There'll be some politicians out there who are going to promise you they'll reduce the cost of houses. I'm not someone who's going to make promises that are unrealistic. My approach in politics and public service has been to be brutally honest, whether it's the answer you want to hear or whether it's the answer you don't want to hear. I find truth and transparency is always the better approach. And if you look at the price of housing in Canada, decade over decade, it has increased. There are ebbs and flows, and it may temporarily go down. But I don't see any politician in Ottawa decreasing the cost of housing. There are more people coming into Canada than new houses that we're building, and there's going to continue to be an acute demand for housing supply. And so, I'm a big believer that a great investment is buying your first home, and we just need to look at ways to make sure more Canadians can get into the marketplace and have that investment for their family.
So when we hear Premier of Ontario, Honourable Doug Ford, he speaks about red tapes. He speaks about how municipalities are the bottlenecks when it comes to build more houses and build the houses faster, allowing developers to get the permits. So what's the state of the nation at City of Brampton when looking at some of these comments?
Well, certainly I think Brampton is used as an example for having the least red tape. On a per capita basis, we have the highest housing start numbers in the province on a per capita basis. Right now, Toronto has the highest number. Brampton is slightly behind. We're in number 2. But when you look at Toronto having the population 5 times the size, it really shows the incredible progress that we're making in terms of trying to create new housing supply in Brampton. We're the example. When the province talks about municipalities that are sort of treading water, not doing anything, they then point to Brampton as saying, why can't you be more like Brampton? We now have the 4th fastest approvals in terms of the build survey. So my goal is to be known as a municipality where there's no red tape. If you have a project that makes sense, you'll know right away. If it doesn't make sense, you'll know right away. I'm trying to reduce the waits and the delays that cause investment to move away.
Very good. So we started our show with cricket, and I would like to end with the cricket notion. So there are some rumors out there the season 4 of GT20 might not happen in the city of Brampton. How far is it correct?
Well, it's not correct. I was in a planning meeting today for season 4 with the GT20. What I will say is it's going to be bigger than you could ever imagine, and that we're going to have a marquee player from India that I think is going to shock a lot of people. I will be announcing that name in January, but let me say each year we try to outdo ourselves with having bigger and bigger names, and we had some huge names from Pakistan this year, some huge names from the West Indies, from Guyana, but this year we're going to bring into it some of the people that have had some tremendous success in the IPL. So stay tuned for what's going to be an exciting season 4.
Very good. So shall we expect for season 4 next year it's going to be with the floodlights as you were explaining?
Yes, we're going to have night games next year.
So that is a done deal, looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So that is going to, bring a lot more people to the games after the work, and they would enjoy the evening games as well as the afternoon games. And then we expect once the game is over, the restaurants in Brampton and Mississauga are going to be staying up till late night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., which is going to be a very good story for the economy. What else would you like to share, Mayor Patrick Brown, as we close the show?
Well, just that things continue to go well in Brampton. I'm so proud of the city, proud of the city's resilience, and whether it's the MDA facility that does the Canada arm, the space robotics, whether it's the new Lululemon factory, the new Magna battery factory, whether it's the Stellantis electric vehicle factory, our city's booming, and it's a great time to be a Bramptonian. It's a great time to be in the city.
Once again, thank you so much, Patrick, for giving us your time this evening. It was, amazing to speak to you and talk about cricket, talk about the love of Pakistan, as well as, some of the stuff you mentioned about how we should not lose hope when it comes to, curbing the rising cost of living, and some of the other stuff that you talked about the city of Brampton. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
नाज़रीन, ये आज हमारी कोशिश थी कि आपको मेयर ऑफ ब्रैम्पटन पैट्रिक ब्राउन साहब से मुलाकात कराएं कि जिनका एक अहम रोल है कनाडा में और ख़ास तौर पे ग्रेटर टोरंटो हैमिल्टन एरिया में क्रिकेट के स्पोर्ट को फ़रोग़ देने का। आप सोचते हैं क्या हुआ है कि एकदम क्रिकेट जो है वो फोर फ्रंट पे आ गया है। तो नाज़रीन, ये ज़ाहिर है कुछ लोगों की ख़ास एफ़र्ट है, क्रिकेट कनाडा और बहुत सारे इदारे लीग्स अपना काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन सियासी सतह पे और सिटी की सतह पे जो सपोर्ट मेयर ब्राउन की तरफ से मिली है वो अनकम्पेरेबल है कंपेयर टू एनी अदर सिटी। तो इसका जो है वो क्रेडिट मेयर को जाता है। अगर आप मेयर पैट्रिक ब्राउन से मुलाकात करें तो अपनी जो है वो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर कीजिएगा, उनका शुक्रिया ज़रूर अदा कीजिएगा किस तरह से उन्होंने पाकिस्तानी कम्युनिटी को और क्रिकेट लविंग नेशंस को ये मौका फ़राहम किया। और जो मैंने आपको बताया कि अकील साहब जो कनाडा आए उस पर भी हमने शो किया, उनको यहाँ पे लाने की भी काविश जो है वो मेयर पैट्रिक ब्राउन की। तो नाज़रीन, अपना ख्याल रखिएगा, अगले हफ्ते आपसे फिर मुलाकात होगी। अस्सलामु अलैकुम।
Here's a headache remedy. Whenever you're experiencing a headache, by eating 10 to 12 almonds is the equivalent of having 2 aspirins.
Brought to you by Greenish Natural Health.
Babu Pan and Shawarma, now serving from 4 locations.
घर में सबकी healthy life के लिए Greenish Natural Health, grandpa, husband, kids और wife के लिए Greenish Natural Health। एक टैब दे इन्हें दिन भर की energy और पूरा दिन रखे इनको active naturally। से बेहतर immunity, एक डोज से सब फिट रहे all day long naturally। Greenish Natural Health, healthy living for the whole family।
मज़ीद मालूमात के लिए विजिट करें अपनी करीबी फार्मेसी या हमारी वेबसाइट www.greenish.com।
घर खरीदना या हो बेचना, कोई तजर्बाकार और ईमानदार रियल्टर हो देखना, तो रियल एस्टेट की फील्ड में आपका दोस्त, आपका रफीक ताबिश तौफीक। If you are searching for an honest and experienced realtor, please call Tabish Tawfiq of Remax Champions Realty Inc. 647-518-3000 or visit tabishhomes.com. आपका रफीक ताबिश तौफीक, ताबिश तौफीक। 647-518-3000।
रवैया और तर्ज अमल दोनों जन्म लेते हैं हमारे एहसासात और जज्बात से, जो वजूद पाते हैं हमारी सोच और नुक्तः नज़र से। मुस्बत सोच रखना और हर मामले में नुक्ता फहम होना बनता है बाइस इंसानों और माशरों के दरमियान अच्छे बाहमी ताल्लुकात का और बर्दाश्त का। तो आइए शामिल हो जाएं मुस्बत सोच के इस सफ़र में। देखिए प्रोग्राम नुक्तः नज़र ओवैस इकबाल के साथ सिर्फ GEO TV पर।
देखिए आवाज़ TV लाइव तमाम IPTV बॉक्सेस पर पाकिस्तानी या उर्दू सेक्शन में, या हमारी वेबसाइट विजिट कीजिए eawaz.com।